Hello, and welcome back to the Safety Brief. We're here to discuss practical cybersecurity tips to help you stay safe in our ever connected world. This week, our focus is on securing your new devices from day one. With so many of us unwrapping new gadgets this season, it's the perfect time to talk about how to protect these devices from cyber threats. So let's dive right into it with our experts, Mike and Matt. And as always, thank you both for being here.
Thank you for being here, Elizabeth, and thank you, Matt, for being muted.
I'm not muted. What are you talking about?
I muted him during the intro, so they didn't hear the typing. So that's on me. I just unmuted you. But yes, I'm very happy to be back in the host seat of the Safety Brief. Very much missed our discussions. So, well, to start us off, when we unwrap a new tech gift this holiday season, whether it's a phone, laptop, watch, or so on, what's the first thing we should do to ensure it's secure?
Take it back.
That's one way to do it. Just have no devices whatsoever.
Oh, okay. We want the non-extreme issue. Gotcha.
Not an ebook.
Yeah. The first thing is, this is going to sound really stupid, but update it. When you are getting something like a phone, a tablet, a laptop, guess what? That thing has been sitting on a shelf, not powered on, not connected to the internet, thank God, and not updated. There are countless security vulnerabilities that you need to put behind you. If it's Microsoft, they're always going to be ahead of you as well because, Microsoft sucks. And, we keep getting notifications of active things being used in the wild. Well, guess what? The one that they disclosed that's being used is less than the 30 that are also being used they don't want to scare you with. So update quickly, regularly, get that out of the way right away.
Well, that's a good word. I think, Matt's point of return it, I think, we talked about it at length last week, Matt and I, but we said really the source of where you purchase things, it's a constant theme that's come up on the Safety Brief is where this hardware comes from. We saw some crazy supply chain attacks this past year, one of which being the beeper attack. And again, that's of course a much more severe example, but it goes to show that, if you're purchasing refurbished, if you're purchasing Facebook Marketplace, if you're purchasing secondhand this holiday season, which I'm not bashing as a method of acquiring tech, I think giving it a second life is important within the recycle frame, but really who you're getting that from is important. And so, that's an important piece. I also think we've talked about it as well in the past, but a lot of home Wi-Fi networks come with pre-built now, two different networks, whether that's a guest network and a home network. But, if it is IoT, segment it, if it needs to access the internet, we get it. That's a 2024 piece. It comes with the territory, but be very cognizant of any apps that you install on your phone or any applications that ask to access the local network, because you just have to ask why rather than just immediately hit OK and allow and OK. Think to yourself, does this make sense? Does this make sense? And so, and again, the relevance for this topic has never been higher. The FBI recently came out with a publication that is, in layman's terms, said foreign nation state threat actors are in our telecom, are in our infrastructure. We don't have a lot of confidence that we'll be able to uproot this in a timely manner. So use Signal and WhatsApp. Like it's the most, I would say, defeatist type of messaging that's gone out to the public in a very long time from U.S. agencies as are concerned. Agencies like that historically are be safe, be mindful, have a good holiday season. But this one was very, very different in tone. And we'll try and dig up the link of the specific publication, the PSA they put out. But essentially, due to the recent large-scale telecom, large-scale cellular provider hacks, they have all but said there's no real way to know if we will be able to remove them from our networks. And so again, how did they get access to all of that? Well, we've been handing them free network telemetry for years and years and years with apps that have scanned local networks. But, again, be mindful of what types of places you are purchasing from. And I'm not going to demonize a gift or a type of device in particular, but really more so than anything, it'll cost a couple extra bucks. Try your best to buy from manufacturer, buy brand new. And again, I'm a guy who shops used myself, so I'm not trying to say it's a bad method, but be certain that your refurbished providers are reputable. And you'd be
And it
surprised
is
direct vendors sell refurbished, right? So like Apple sells Apple refurbished, for example. So, it's anything's better than Facebook Marketplace when it comes to electronics.
Well, and it is okay too if you're receiving these devices as a gift. Obviously, your Aunt Betty or your mom or grandma or sister, they don't have malicious intent, at least hopefully not. I don't know your family politics there, but it's okay to ask them where they received or where they purchased the gift. It's custom to give gift receipts and things of that nature. And if you don't feel comfortable, then it's okay to exchange it for sure.
Right.
So definitely don't be afraid to ask those questions to make sure that it didn't come from sources that cannot be trusted.
And if it came from Temu or Wish, it'll be about a third the size of a real thing. So, that'll be pretty easy to figure out.
It'll be very light. It'll feel hollow.
Very light, yes.
Yeah. Another thing too, we see it a lot during the holiday season, and maybe it's relevant or not, but giveaways. You see a lot of these vendors, like, subscribe, share with your friends, retweet, repost, become a follower, give us an email for 10% off. Just again, be mindful of what you're doing. I think, for certain ones, I'm a little bit more excitable. If we're giving away a firearm, I'll probably give up an email and a text message or two. But if it's a 10% off website discount code, just be mindful what you're selling your email address for, right? And so again, those are very common during this time of year, and so be mindful of where you're putting your data just as much as those giveaways may sound great, but there's a reason they're able to give that away.
Yeah, and just to put a little bit more on that topic, Mike, we spoke about this in previous episodes as well, that it's okay to also have multiple emails. So if you're going to be sharing those emails for giveaways or to sign up for rewards programs, have a separate email. That way you're not putting that with your business, with critical information. It's okay to have multiple emails. I have 5 myself, and I know Matt has described how he has some that he never even opens, which I do the same. So it's a good idea to have multiple.
I'm one of those guys.
Well, and to go a little bit deeper on the topic that Matt brought up about updates, is we all know when you get a new device, there's many prompts for updates. So how important are software and firmware updates for new devices? And are there specific types of updates people should be prioritizing right after setting up a new device?
Most definitely. One that I just, as a recent example, I've been trying to, like everybody, this is going to be a cliche thing, and especially as we go into like New Year's resolutions, right? I've been trying to read more. I have a Kindle, so I've been re-downloading all these ebooks I've purchased over the years. And the interesting thing I found out about a Kindle is they don't auto-update. They don't even auto-download the recent security version. This is something you have to manually almost side load through USB. And I'm shocked. I get that the device is simple, but I'm shocked that that piece wasn't maybe architected early on. And so, if it's like a Barnes & Noble, Nook, or a Reader, again, it's more budget aimed. Some of these Kindles are not incredibly cheap, right? And so, but specifically was shocked that the Kindle, whatever the Paperwhite or whatever is, was 2 major versions behind. I hadn't thought that. Every time I went to settings, check for updates, it just said no update available. I thought it's auto checking. What that means is that there's no update on disk on that local storage to update to. And so somebody that's used to over the air updates like iOS and even Windows and Mac OS for desktop, I was like, okay, well, that's an eye opener. So don't assume your device is up to date just because your device says so. I would definitely do some research. And when I say what devices specifically to look at, number one, your home router, very, very important, is not most likely up to date on updating its own firmware. Those are relatively simple. Spoiler alert, any update, just don't unplug power. Just don't let it do its thing. However long it takes, right? I'd
Hey,
say.
now you're taking all the fun out of it.
I know, man. Don't flash the BIOS. Don't get to a point where you got to flash the BIOS. And if you know, you know. But yeah, so I would say look at your home router is one thing that you really, really want to look at. And if you're going out and buying one for the holiday season, fantastic. Update it before you even pre-install it, right? Like you can hot stage it to where what you have at home is ready to go, but really do some documentation, spend the 15 to 20 minutes on researching, hey, what's the most recent firmware version for my make model? And if you don't know how to update it, Google and YouTube are your best friends, right? How do I update this? That's
Just
how
go
I
ask
was able to find
GPT.
You can do that too.
They'll give you step by
ChatGPT
step.
will tell you
Yeah.
exactly how
You
to
can do
do it.
that too. Yeah, but that's what I had to do for my Kindle. Just as one example was I never would have thought, but it was eye opening. Again, every day we're learning that just because it says no update available, just look at the version you have installed and just do a quick check online. What's the most recent version?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up too,
Absolutely.
because there's
There are,
so
if you-
many. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're more on the technically inclined side and you are using a home router, please understand that the firmware that they give you from the manufacturers is total crap. And there is a lot that is left to be offered. Now, there are some less than stellar offerings out there, Linksys, Cisco, that can be replaced with things like DDWRT, which gives you extremely crazy amounts of control over what your router can do, where you can actually go, what limitations you can put on devices that are connected to the router. There's a whole bunch of things that you can actually do on that. So you may want to look and see if there are things that you can leverage. And another thing, and I know we try to not go too far down the rabbit hole on things, but that's why I'm here, because I live in the rabbit hole. If you have a wireless network that is set up, you can actually install an object called a pie hole. And this will keep you from getting hit with advertisements and all kinds of other stuff. You can actually set the pie hole up to be running a permanent VPN. So if you have a VPN solution that you like, you can build it into the pie hole solution. Keeps all your devices, for the most part, anonymized. If it's a zero logging VPN that you're connecting to, that's even better. But get rid of those advertisements, get rid of the pop-ups, get rid of all the tracking crap that everybody's putting out there these days. Every browser is getting hit with some kind of a suit saying that their incognito mode wasn't so incognito and they were catching and selling all of the data from it. Well, that's not only is it a gross mistrust by the company on the user, it's a violation of everybody's privacy. How do you trust any company that goes through that? Well, I mean, the simple fact is you're going to, because there's no other options out there. And the other options generally don't work with half the web pages that are out there. So, I mean, you're losing a battle at that point. But there are things you can put in place that will help to keep you safe. That's the important thing. Custom firmware, Pi-hole, you're good with that. And there's lots of other things you can do with that I will not disclose on the stream, but your friend the Googles can tell you all kinds of fun stuff. So can ChatGPT, just so you know.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that, Matt. Another thing to remember is many devices come with default passwords or settings. How risky is it to leave these unchanged? And what are some best practices for securing them?
Well, if it involves your network, how risky is it? You may as well just go to the dude living on the street and say, here's a key to my house. Why don't you come on in? Nothing bad could ever happen from this, right? Yeah. Or just going out and not putting your security system on and putting a sign on the outside of your house saying, Front door unlocked. Take all my stuff. Because that's pretty much what you're asking somebody to do if you're using a default password. Everybody knows the default passwords. I will say this. The router that I actually bought for my house had a default password that the only way you could crack that is if it was a member of Mensa and a supercomputer. It was relatively complex. But a lot of these things give you stupid passwords like, password 2024, password 2025. This is my password 1. It doesn't help. You got to change that stuff. Yeah, you've got to change that stuff. I mean, even Kali being an offensive security solution gives you an easy setup to get into this solution with the intent of you being a smart potato and changing that stuff.
Right.
Exactly.
But most people that are downloading and using Kali are trying to be the pretend hacker, and they are about as smart as a baked potato, dripping with cheese, and they don't change anything. And then somebody can just hop on their machine, see all the crap they've been doing, change settings in their network, because most likely these same people that are using the default passwords have their passwords written in a notepad on their desktop called passwords. Yeah. Those scare me.
Even more so than home routers, which I know we've talked about, and these are, I would say, probably 50% or more homes in America now have Wi-Fi extenders. Mm-hmm. So they're cheaper, simpler solutions meant to obviously like capture and rebroadcast a signal. The problem is that because they're so simple, getting access to them is very easy, and the only like setup wizard that they want to walk you through is connecting to the existing network and rebroadcasting that network, right? So they're not going to care much about the security of it. They're going to care about, can this radio transmitter antenna receive that signal and then just rebroadcast it, right? And so I would say those are definitely ones to look at for default passwords and things like that, because again, just because your home router is secured, that password is other places. It could be on your Wi-Fi booster. It could be on your laptop, which doesn't have a password. So ultimately, there are many ways into the home, metaphorically speaking, and the threat actor is going to look for the lowest hanging fruit. So Wi-Fi boosters are a big one. And obviously, I know that some may laugh at this, but for those in apartments that you're using your neighbor's Wi-Fi, be very careful. Right. Just because it's unsecured, it does not mean that it is safe. Right. Just because it doesn't have a password on it. And you're like, oh, this is great. I've been using my neighbor's Wi-Fi for 2 years. And guess what? There's probably other people using that same Wi-Fi. And you could potentially be getting honeypotted in a way. And so, again, just be mindful of these things. But more importantly, I know that Wi-Fi boosters on a lot of people's lists this year. It's a nice little device. And if you got a 2-story home or a more of a wider single story or an apartment or whatever, sometimes you need a little bit of a signal boost. Be mindful of hardening those devices as well.
My suggestion, if you are looking to do something like that, instead of buying a signal booster, which, yes, they are cheap. There's a reason that they are cheap. Mike has just alluded to those reasons. Buy a damn mesh network. Just spend the money. I promise you, it is worth the level of security that you get out of it, but also you can get your entire house covered with your Wi-Fi. It's a lot more secure, and you don't have half the issues that you're going to run into. Plus, Wi-Fi extenders generally have a much slower transmission rate because they are not designed to be the fastest things in the world. They're just designed to get you coverage in an area where you wouldn't, like if you are out in the garage and your router is on the other side of the house. We're not going to get into the fact that we can communicate with a rover that's on Mars, but I can't communicate from my garage to my family room. Yeah, that makes total sense. But the mesh network will blanket everything. And you can segment your mesh network off if you want to. You can do all kinds of interesting things because the mesh network will, in turn, become a secondary network underneath the primary router that you are using. So you can do fun things like if you have devices that young things use, you can segment them off to that mesh network, keep them away from your main network, not have that mesh network where it can actually laterally communicate. Have it where it's able to get outbound, but it can't talk to any other devices internally on the other network. Just full on keep that subnet on its own.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Not
want to
only
share.
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say you wouldn't want to share your toothbrush with them, so don't share your Wi-Fi either.
Oh, you think that that they don't just randomly go grab your toothbrush when you're not looking and decide to pretend like they're brushing your teeth?
Gosh, I hope not.
Oh, just wait. Just wait.
Mine's not there quite yet, so.
Oh, I know. But just wait.
Well, we've seen a rise in personal data collection as well by new gadgets. So, how can consumers ensure their devices aren't collecting or sharing more data than necessary? One tip I loved that Mike brought up in the past was researching the apps before downloading and taking the time to read the privacy policy and understanding the data that will be collected and why.
Oh, should we go into what we found recently with a brand new free to play game?
Please do.
Oh yeah, Delta Force.
Oh, yeah.
What did
So,
we find?
Delta Force was an OG game that was a first person shooter. It was really fun. You actually had to pay for it in the past, okay, back when games were good. Well, a studio decided that they wanted to re-release Delta Force as a free-to-play game that's online. There is no single-player campaign that I'm aware of. It's supposed to be like a Call of Duty rival. Well, there is no Call of Duty rival. I'm sorry. Call of Duty is Call of Duty. Everything else is just kind of compared to that, as we've seen. Now, what's fun is it's free. It's on Steam. What they didn't tell you is that their anti-cheat was also rebundled with an info stealer. We downloaded and played with the anti-cheat and found the info stealer that was in there. The studio has yet to actually respond to why that was included as part of the bundle.
It's been called out publicly, though?
Oh, it's been called out numerous times. They have not responded to it, and they probably won't. It was found during EA testing that somebody that was playing the game said, "Why is there suspicious network communication?" And nobody could figure out why there was suspicious network communication. And now that it's been out for a while, I actually broke it down and found the domains that it was talking to. And they're all part of known Redline, it was Luma Stealer. Luma C, actually, the variant that was out there. It was all there was all domains that were associated with Luma Stealer. So everybody that downloaded that game and was playing it now had all kinds of information being taken on the back end that they had no idea about.
That's the scary part, is a lot of people are unaware completely, and it takes one person to actually pay attention and watch things to call out things like this. And sadly, a lot of the times that one person who's watching doesn't come along until so many other people who were not watching or paying attention have already been compromised and their data's already been leaked. So yeah, that's a huge one. I have not seen
I
that.
blame my parents. They told me to always pay attention, and that if something is free, there's a reason.
Yeah. Right. Well, we also have a previous episode of the safety brief of the cost of free applications. So if you want to dig deeper into that topic, feel free to check that episode out as well. And we kind of go into the IoT devices as well and checking the applications that you're downloading deeper. So yeah, that's available for you guys to listen or watch as well. Absolutely. Well, finally, to close this out, what are some general tips for keeping new devices safe from hackers throughout the year, specifically if they're part of the IoT devices? Because we've seen a huge rise of IoT devices, whether it's your fridge or your washer, and keeping in mind that some of these devices don't say, hey, there's an update, like your Kindle, Mike. So what are some things that should be at the top of your mind for people with these devices in their home?
Yeah, one thing my wife and I have recently done, and I think it's more of like a budget driven mindset thing, but there's a security element to it too, is if there's an easy desktop website, don't download the app. There's don't it doesn't need you don't need to, right? So the Amazons, the Targets, the whatever they are that you prefer to shop from. Again, it's all about attack surface. It's all about risk. One app has one gap in it, and it's running in the background because you forget to close it. That's vulnerability. And so, I would highly recommend do an audit of your mobile devices, specifically your phones this holiday season. If there's an app you haven't used in 30 days, uninstall it. You can always reinstall it. Even if you've bought it, you can still reinstall it. I'm if you're a parent with young kids, I don't maybe get the hype behind mobile gaming, but definitely take a look at the privacy policies of those mobile games. Again, like Matt said, if they are free, there is a reason why they are free, and it's not just with ads that pay for that app being free. That's additional profit, certainly, but there's a lot of AAA titles like Doom and Destiny that are getting mobile apps now, that you just want to be mindful of, because what they've most often done in those instances are resold IP rights to some other developer. It's not the same. It may be an initial studio. And so, yeah, I would just say take a look at your mobile device, remove apps you aren't using, remove apps that you don't need. Again, you're sacrificing seconds of convenience and maybe saving money if you don't have that on your phone at 11 p.m. to go and buy something that says it's on sale, but it's actually not. But another different twist on the holiday season. You can't be compromised with your device if you're not on it 24/7. So put the devices down, buy a Faraday bag, make everybody put their phones in at 8 o'clock at night. Everybody go to bed. You'll probably sleep better. You'll probably spend more time with each other. You'll probably be happier, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But Faraday bags, $40, and a little bit of discipline can go a long way. And again, there's nothing. Everybody's, I gotta have my phone by my bedside for an emergency at night. The statistic likelihood of there being an emergency. I'm not saying that if you're in the middle of a dire crisis and you need your phone on, don't not do that. But for the majority of people that don't have loved ones in the hospital or whatever, unplug it, put it away, And I've seen instances where it's more so a lapse of judgment late in the evening, 10, 11, 12 at midnight. If someone using their phone and they weren't thinking straight. And again, it's don't use it after 8 p.m. And if you've already eaten dinner and you've done all your work for the day, put it away. Read a book, hang out with your kids, call a friend, whatever. So invest in a Faraday bag.
No, I like that. And how often are you actually to wake up to those calls? I know me, I don't wake up to any calls.
Yeah. Buy a dedicated alarm.
My phone
Don't
has
use the
not
excuse
had
that
a
your phone's your
ringer
alarm.
active for probably 5 years.
Yeah.
I
Just
have
buy
the
an
ringer's
alarm
got to be all the way
next
up,
to your
but
bed.
yeah, my alarm is my savior. My phone alarms they're not it for me. So
Nope. My brain is tuned out every single one.
But I'm glad you brought up closing the apps as well, because a lot of the times on like iPhones, it allows you to have multiple apps open. And I've actually, I'm bad about this as well, but I'll go in at the end of the week and there's 50 plus apps that are just open and still running in the background. Not only is that bad for your phone, but if there's data to be collected, it's being collected. So make sure to close out the apps that you're done with and close out the browser tabs as well. Don't save tab. You can text yourself the link if you really need to save that link, but if you're not using the tab, close it out. So, anything else from you, Matt? Putting you on the spot here? No?
No, I think I've terrified people enough today.
Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you, Mike and Matt, for these invaluable insights. As we embrace the joy of new technology this holiday season, let's not forget to prioritize cybersecurity. Remember, a few simple steps can go a long way in protecting your devices and personal information. If you found this session helpful, please share it with your friends and family, especially with the holidays around the corner. And don't forget to join us next Thursday for another safety brief. Until then, stay secure and happy holidays.
Thanks all.